Hi, this is Kevin Edwards from Portland Community College. On behalf of the Central Analytics Standing Group, I'd like to present you with an example of analytics in action. In the past 5 years, PCC has made some significant changes to our loan periods and our fine structure, particularly for our media collections. In 2016, all of our CDs and DVDs were changed to a 6-week loan. We also went fine-free for all of our collections at that time, except for circulating equipment and reserves. One of the concerns at the time was whether or not patrons would return items in a timely fashion if they get to keep the item longer, and especially if there isn't a financial repercussion if they do so. Now that it's been a few years, we can turn to analytics to see what, if anything, it might tell us about the use of our media collections and patron behavior. Here's how we build the analysis. Because I'm interested in evaluating changes in user behavior over time, I will be using the fulfillment dimension because it will allow us to display results by loan date. So under loan, I'm going to add loan not in house twice. Under loan date, I'm going to add loan fiscal year. And under item location at time of loan, we're just going to add location code. First, because I'm only interested in our music CDs and our DVDs, I'm going to filter our location code to just those collections. So is equal to, is in, and then I'm going to scroll down to MUS for music, and then pop DVD. Next, I'm going to change the formula for one of these calculated measures, these yellow measures for loans. I'm interested in the average amount of days from the return date and the date the item was due. This will help indicate whether how long a patron keeps an item has changed as we make other changes or have made changes to loan periods and overdue times over that same period. To get this figure, I'm going to use the timestamp diff formula for a return date and due date and then apply an average function to that figure. So let me show you the equation that I'll use, and I'll try my best to try to explain it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this formula. So this is this part here you might be familiar with. All this is saying is it wants to see the difference, that's the diff part, by the quantity day. I could change this to hour, for example, or year, and then it's between these two elements, return date and then due date. And then by adding this part, it's going to give me the average of that difference. So next I'm going to just make a custom heading here and say average days overdue, so it's a little bit more user-friendly. If I don't, it's going to abbreviate some aspect of the formula. Is that okay? Next, I want to change the data format for this same element we just worked on. And what I mainly want to see here is I want to treat it as a number, but I want the number, the negative, to appear in red, just so it will help with the display. So it'll be more visible when it's negative. We'll hit OK. Now we can see our results. Now, once we're in this, in our results, we're going to drag and drop these columns where we want to see them. I'm going to make a couple other changes. I'm going to enable alternate styling and click on repeat cell values. That's going to apply this nice color formatting, and it's also going to repeat these values so we don't have any merged cells should we try to download this into Excel. Okay, next I also want to see some totals by fiscal year, because I'm not just, while it's nice to see the difference between DVD and our CDs by fiscal year, I'm really interested in both of them. So I'm really just interested in the grand total for that fiscal year, for that period. And then for good measure, I'll just put it in for the grand total if you were interested in that as well. Click on Done. Next, in order to make this a little bit more visible and easier to read at a glance, I'm going to add a couple of graphs. So the first graph I'm going to add is one that will show me the average days overdue over time. And the other one is going to show me the loan rates over the same period of time. So let's create one bar graph. They'll always appear down here. I'll move it up. We're going to make a lot of adjustments here. So the loan fiscal year, we want that in the bars section. I'm not interested in location code, so I'm going to exclude that. I'll drag it and drop it down into there. I'm also not interested in the loans for this graph. I'm just interested in the average days overdue. And we can move these down so they vary by color if you want. And then we could also adjust the data marker so that they're always appearing. We get it done. Now the next graph, we're just going to create it the same way. Graph, bar, recommended subtype, and it's going to appear down below again. We'll move it underneath the other graph. And I want to remove everything. I want it to basically be the same as the previous one, except instead of having the calculated measure for average days overdue, I want to see the loans not in house in that area. So we'll go ahead and add data markers so that they always appear. It's done. One last thing I would like to do is, just like our values in the table, I'd like our bars to appear if they have a negative value to appear red. So let's add that conditional formatting too. So we'll hit on the properties of the graph and on style and conditional formatting, click on conditional formatting, add condition format, select the calculated measure. Now we'll just say less than 0, okay, and then in this box is where we'll select the red or whatever color. Hit okay, okay, and now those negative figures will appear red. So I've zoomed out a little bit so we can see both graphs at the same time. So on the one hand, the results of this analysis allows me to see that our media collections are not as in much demand as they once were, as loans on this bottom graph have declined over time. This suggests to me that we may not have the same scarcity concern as we once did about these collections, since fewer folks are using them. But on the same hand, is that a result of patrons turning to streaming services instead of using our physical CDs? Or are there fewer loans because we've extended the loan periods since 2016, and so patrons don't have to loan the item as often? Unfortunately, this analysis can't answer either of those questions, but it does help raise them. On the above graph, I can also see a significant decrease in how many days these items have been returned late since fiscal 2016, which is also the same year that we extended the loan periods for these locations from 1 week to 6 weeks. This was also the year that we eliminated overdue charges for these collections as well. While items have been returned on a more timely basis since these changes, we can't be certain of the cause. Many other factors may be at play here that are not included, like the size of the collection may have changed, our enrollment may have fluctuated, etc. So while this analysis may raise more questions than it answers, it does seem to suggest that the average rate of return has improved over time, regardless of the changes to our loan periods and fine structure. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation and it might inspire you for other ways to put analytics into action. If you have suggestions for other presentations like this one, please contact a member of the Central Analytics Standing Group. We'd love to hear from you.